You believe you help others because you are kind. But what if you help because you are afraid of being irrelevant? What if your generosity is not a gift, but a price you pay for your place in someone else's life? There is a particular exhaustion that comes from perpetual service, a quiet, bone-deep fatigue that you never mention because mentioning it would make you seem ungrateful for the very role you've chosen. You give and give and give, and somewhere beneath the smiling surface, there is a question you're terrified to ask. What happens if I stop? Who will I be if I am not needed? This is the hidden architecture of a wound disguised as virtue. Let's be clear about something. This pattern you've developed, this compulsion to fix, to save, to carry the emotional weight of everyone around you, it is not nobility, it is survival. You didn't wake up one day and decide to become indispensable. You learned it. Somewhere in your formative years, you absorbed a devastating lesson, that your worth was conditional, that love was something earned through utility, not given freely through presence. Perhaps the adults around you were emotionally unavailable, overwhelmed, or inconsistent. Perhaps the only time you felt seen when you were useful, when you performed, when you solved their problems or soothed their pain. And so you internalized a belief system that would shape every relationship you entered, that significance must be bought with self-sacrifice. This is what psychologists call codependency masquerading as care. It is the confusion between being helpful and being essential, between generosity and the desperate need to be needed. The rescuer does not simply want to help, they require others to be broken so that they themselves can feel whole. Your kindness, as genuine as it may feel, is laced with an unspoken contract. You give because somewhere deep in your nervous system, you believe that if you stop giving, you will be abandoned, that your value expires the moment you cease to be functional. This is not love. This is fear wearing the mask of compassion. Let me tell you what you've lost in the process of becoming everyone's answer. You learn to ignore your own exhaustion to maintain the peace around you because acknowledging your limits felt like a betrayal of your purpose. You learn to feel guilty when you rested because rest meant someone else might be struggling without you, and their struggle became more real than your own depletion. You learn to believe that being needed was the same as being loved, and so you surrounded yourself with people whose brokenness validated your identity. You learn to associate boundaries with cruelty, as if saying no to someone else's emergency was the moral equivalent of abandonment. You learn to suppress your own needs so thoroughly that when someone asks what you want, you draw a blank because wanting something for yourself feels selfish, foreign, almost transgressive. You learn to interpret other people's pain as your personal responsibility, as if their emotional state was a reflection of your adequacy. You learn to measure your worth by how much you could endure, how much you could carry, how invisible you could make your own suffering in service of someone else's comfort. You learned that your voice only mattered when it was used to affirm, support, or rescue, never to express anger, disappointment, or the simple truth that you are tired. And in learning all of this, you lost something essential. You lost the ability to receive. You lost the capacity to trust that you could be loved for who you are, not what you provide. You lost your center. Because here's what happens when you build your identity around being indispensable. You become a magnet for people who need to be saved. Not people who want partnership, reciprocity, or mutual growth, but people who are content to take because you have trained them to expect that you will give without limit. Your strength became your cage. There is a paradox at the heart of the rescuer's life, and it is this: the more you sacrifice yourself, the more you attract relationships that require your self-erasure. The cycle perpetuates itself. You give until you're empty, then feel resentful that no one notices. But you cannot express that resentment because expressing it would shatter the image of the selfless caregiver you've worked so hard to maintain. So the anger goes underground. It becomes passive. It becomes a quiet bitterness, a low-grade disappointment that colors every interaction. You start to notice that people only call when they need something. You start to feel used, but you cannot name it without confronting the deeper truth that you needed to be used, that being used gave you a sense of control. This is the hyper-control instinct. It is the subconscious belief that if you can manage other people's problems, you can keep chaos at bay. If you can fix them, maybe the world will feel less unstable. Maybe your own unresolved wounds won't demand your attention. So you focus outward. You become hyper-attuned to the emotional states of others. You develop an almost supernatural ability to anticipate needs, to smooth over conflict, to absorb tension. And in doing so, you abandon yourself. You abandon the part of you that is angry, the part that is tired, the part that wants to be seen, not for what you do, but for who you are, beneath all the doing. There is a deep, quiet exhaustion that lives in the body of the rescuer. It is not the exhaustion of hard work. It is the exhaustion of self-betrayal, of knowing on some level that you are performing a role rather than living a life, that your relationships are transactional, even if the currency is emotional rather than material. And beneath that exhaustion is something even heavier: resentment. Not towards others, though it may appear that way, but towards yourself, for allowing it, for not knowing how to stop, for fearing that if you do stop, you will discover that without your usefulness, you are nothing. But here's what you need to understand: you are not nothing. The truth you have been running from is not that you are unworthy of love. It is that you have never tested whether you could be loved without earning it. You have never allowed yourself to be seen in your incompleteness, your messiness, your need. You have been so busy rescuing that you have never stopped to ask, what if I didn't have to prove my value? What if my presence alone was enough? This is not a small shift. This is a complete reorientation of your relationship to yourself and to others. True strength is not self-sacrifice. True strength is self-respect. It is the ability to say, I cannot carry this for you without feeling like a failure. It is the willingness to disappoint others in service of your own integrity. It is the recognition that boundaries are not walls. They are the architecture of sustainable love. You are not betraying others by choosing yourself. You are modeling what it looks like to honor your own humanity. You are teaching people that real connection does not require one person to disappear so the other can be whole. And yes, this will be uncomfortable. People who have benefited from your self-abandonment will resist your boundaries. They will call you selfish. They will accuse you of changing, of becoming cold. Let them. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to the part of you that has been waiting for years to be chosen. This is the quiet power you have been seeking in all the wrong places. Not the power to fix, not the power to save, but the power to release, to let go of the need to control outcomes through your own depletion. To trust that other people's problems are not evidence of your inadequacy. You did not fail by becoming a rescuer. You adapted to an environment that taught you your worth was conditional. But you are no longer in that environment. You are no longer the child who needed to earn love through performance. You are an adult with the agency to rewrite the contract. Outgrowing the rescuer is not about becoming hard or indifferent. It is about becoming whole. It is about reclaiming the energy you have spent managing other people's emotions and redirecting it towards your own life, your own dreams, your own peace. It is about learning, slowly and with great tenderness toward yourself, that you were always enough, not because of what you gave, but because of what you are. And that realization, quiet, undramatic, almost unremarkable, is the beginning of your freedom.